You've decided you're ready to become a parent, and suddenly you're overwhelmed with people who feel they have the right to inform you on the correct way to conceive, give birth, what fears you should have, and the proper way to parent. How do you filter through the opinions? How do you know what's trustworthy information and what's a myth or just plain outdated? Welcome to the Birth Ease podcast. Join your host Michelle Smith and her guests as they cut through the noise and fear by sharing valuable tips, tools, and proven methods that help you connect with your own inner wisdom as you navigate the sacred journey that is pregnancy, birth, and parenthood in a more relaxed and confident manner. This podcast does not constitute, nor is it intended, as medical advice.
Hello, Birth Ease families. Welcome to this sacred, honoring, and even healing space. I'm your host, Michelle Smith. Today's episode is one of a deeper topic and one that could be potentially triggering for some. However, I think it's important to break the silence around certain topics and to acknowledge and honor those that have experienced it. In October 1988, President Ronald Reagan proclaimed October as National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. He said, "When a child loses his parent, they are called an orphan. When a spouse loses his or her partner, they are called a widow or a widower. When parents lose their child, there isn't a word to describe them." This month recognizes the loss so many parents experience across the United States and around the world. It is also meant to inform and provide resources for parents who have lost children due to miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, molar pregnancy, stillbirth, birth defects, SIDS, and other causes. Robin Baer founded October 15th as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. She envisioned a day when all grieving parents could come together and be surrounded by love and support from their friends and families, a day where the community could better understand their pain and learn how to reach out to those grieving. 1 in 4 women have experienced some sort of pregnancy or infant loss, and it is something that is rarely spoken about. This silence can cause the necessary grieving for many to be a lonely and isolating experience. Even if you yourself, as the listener, have been fortunate to not experience pregnancy or infant loss, chances are you know someone who has. Again, the silence around it can cause it to be a lonely and isolating experience. And so often, especially in years past, it was just a taboo subject that wasn't discussed. As a birth and bereavement doula and a midwife of thalientology, this is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. As someone that has experienced pregnancy loss and supported families through that loss, there's so many nuances that need to be addressed, and I feel like we need to break the silence surrounding it. So for the month of October, I will be having a series of podcasts addressing how we can support families that have experienced loss, because it is a loss like no other. And unfortunately, people are well-meaning, but they may inadvertently say something that's very hurtful to a grieving parent. So in this episode, we're going to discuss ways that we can be helpful to families and things to say and things that you may not be aware that could be hurtful to grieving families. Later this month, I will be having interviews with experts in the field and talking to families and allowing them to share and teach us about their experience with the loss of their child. I will also be providing a meditation for families that have experienced loss to help them to honor their grief and to honor their children. I know this is a deep and heavy subject, but again, it's one that really I feel needs to be discussed. It's time to break the silence so that families are no longer grieving alone. So let's begin discussing ways that we can support a family that's lost a child. Supporting a friend, coworker, or loved one through the loss of their baby or child can be a very helpless feeling. It's impossible to take the pain away no matter how much we'd like to, or do anything to lessen the impact of the loss. The most important thing friends and families can do is just to listen and be present. Sometimes just sitting in silence can be the most supportive thing to do. Allowing that person the opportunity to just be still in their grief without needing to talk or change it or fix it. You can honor your loved one's thoughts and feelings which may seem foreign to you. It's helpful to mirror their words and beliefs regarding the loss of their baby and to honor their dreams and hopes that they had for their child. As a grieving parent, they may not know or be able to express what they need. They are often only aware of what's not helpful. As a grandparent, aunt, uncle, other family member, you may be most likely grieving the loss of this baby as well. And the feelings of hurt, of seeing your child or your sibling or your friend or relative in pain and being unable to fix it for them can be really one of the worst feelings in the world. You can be overwhelmed with emotion and feel very helpless, all at the same time. And so one of the mistakes, though, that's often made, I don't know if mistake is the right word, but people so often try to be helpful by saying things to comfort a grieving parent. However, there are some things that even though the person saying them really does mean well, they can be extremely painful to that grieving family. And so one of the things to do your best to remember if you can is to avoid using any sentence that begins with at least. Sentences that begin with at least are most often followed by words that are unhelpful and even painful to a grieving parent. At least you can have other children. At least the baby didn't suffer. At least she is in a better place. At least you miscarried before it was really a baby. At least it never came home. Please, if you find yourself forming a sentence beginning with the words at least, do your very best to refrain from speaking it. It's natural to want to comfort them in this way, but again, these well-meaning words can cause such hurt. And I don't want my words and suggestions to sound harsh. I just know from supporting families that those types of statements can just cut them to the quick. And every grieving parent is different, and what is comforting to one isn't always comforting to another grieving parent. So I'm going to address a few more statements that can be well-meaning, but again, can be very hurtful. Better it was early before you knew the baby. Even though the parents had little, if any, time to know their child, the parental attachment is still strong. The bonding with their baby can begin even before conception. Parents are already building the dreams and plans they have for their child, such as their first birthday, holidays, the first day of school, sharing activities with their baby that they enjoyed as a child. With the sad event of a baby's death, parents lose a future they looked forward to sharing with their child. It's not just the amount of time that someone has had with their baby, child, or loved one that influences how deeply they grieve. It is the amount of attachment, love, and the bond that they formed with their child that does. Another hurtful statement is, "You must be strong, don't cry." These types of statements are telling parents how to feel, and it negates their feelings. It also sends the message to the grieving loved one, "You make me uncomfortable when you cry." This places an added burden on them. Something was wrong with the baby anyway. This happened for the best. Well-intentioned reasoning like this often makes the pain worse. It negates the love and the natural, normal grief that a parent has at the loss of their child. You're young. You can always try again. Parents have to mourn the loss of this baby before they can begin to think about having another. One baby does not replace another. The prospect of becoming pregnant again can be very frightening, for they must risk the possibility of greater heartache if they lose another baby. Also, these parents may have gone through extreme difficulty and great expense to conceive the baby that they just lost. Becoming pregnant again may not be as simple as trying again. I understand how you feel. Unless you have lost a baby or a child personally, you cannot even begin to understand how a grieving parent is feeling. And please do not compare the loss of a child to that of a pet. It's just not remotely close. I know losing a pet can feel very painful, yet it just cannot compare to the loss of a child. If you have lost a baby or a child, your experience, while similar, is still different from theirs. In this case, you can simply say something like, "I too lost a child. It is such a difficult experience. There is nothing like it." You can then follow their lead if they would like to ask you to share, and most often they do. Thank goodness you can have other kids. Having other children does not lessen the pain of losing this child. Pause to contemplate it from their point of view. Can you even imagine life without one of your children? Additionally, it's important to remember that this baby's siblings are grieving as well. You have an angel in heaven now. While some people find that concept very comforting, parents don't want an angel in heaven. They want this baby. If in time they begin to refer to their baby as an angel baby, you can follow their lead. But please don't make the assumption that thinking of their baby as an angel will be helpful to them. Some of us don't view our children that are no longer with us as angels. It was God's will. He wanted him or her for his own. Losing a child causes many parents to question the natural order of life and death, their faith, their beliefs about God. Making comments such as this can add to the confusion and pain. They may question how a loving God would take their baby from them. They may wonder if they are being punished. Also, unless you know for absolute certain that their religious beliefs are the same or similar to yours, it's best to forego any spiritual references. Sharing your religious philosophy at this fragile time can actually cause the grieving parent additional unnecessary stress and pain if they do not ascribe to your beliefs. Don't dwell on this. Just put it behind you and move on. These types of statements can make parents feel like the significance of their loss is being made light of or lessened. It can cause prolonged sadness because the parents don't have any space to express and share the normal natural feelings they are experiencing. Parents need time to grieve in their own way and at their own pace. Everyone's grief is unique. It's important to remember, too, that a grieving parent is not broken and doesn't need to be fixed. Respect the parent's right to express whatever they feel or think, regardless of how strange it may seem to you. Grief affects everyone differently, and it's impossible to know how they will react to the loss of their baby. Most people go through multiple phases and waves of powerful emotions that are a necessary part of the grieving process, and that may be difficult for others to understand. Grief doesn't end at the funeral or within the few weeks following it. It may take 24 months or longer before parents begin to feel normal again, but please bear in mind that they have had to create a new normal for themselves. When someone loses a child, their sense of the natural order of life is shaken. They can feel vulnerable in a way that they never had before. They will never be quite the same again. So what are some helpful things that we can say to a grieving family? I'm so sorry. This is so incredibly hard. I don't know what to say. I'm here. I care. I want to listen. What can I do for you right now? Tell me more about your baby, please. Some of the best support that you can provide your loved one or your friend or colleague is just to be present and listen non-judgmentally. This is the greatest gift you can give grieving parents. Allowing parents to talk about their pain and express all their emotions helps them to come to grips with the death of their baby. Like all parents, they want to talk about their child, engage in conversation about their baby's labor and delivery. Be that person that they can always share their special memories and stories about their baby with. Research shows that people who get support from close family and friends are better able to cope with the major stressors in life, such as the loss of a child. Your support is very important now and especially in the months following, when life around the grieving parents goes on and the initial support often drifts away. The real grief process does not take place until months after the loss. The death of a baby can be a very isolating and lonely experience, as we've discussed. Your continued love, support, and willingness to listen and be there is absolutely invaluable. Give the gift of silence. Sometimes just being willing to sit with someone, hold their hand, and allow them to cry or formulate their thoughts without saying a word is the greatest comfort of all. Remind them that their loss is unique and all their feelings are valid. When someone loses a child, hearing stories of someone else's loss can cause inevitable comparisons. For example, they may feel that the depth of their feelings are not valid because they lost their baby at 10 weeks and someone else lost their baby at 39 weeks, or someone else had a miscarriage or a stillbirth after years of fertility treatments, and your loved one became pregnant easily. Please remind your loved one not to measure one loss against another. Call their baby by name. This lets them know that you acknowledge that their baby is the unique person he or she is. It allows everyone to participate in the task of saying hello and goodbye to this sweet child. Parents enjoy hearing their baby's name spoken by others. Gently support the parents and help them to make their own decisions. When a baby dies, the parents are often suddenly bombarded with the difficult decisions they were not expecting to make. Decisions such as when to induce labor or not, whether or not to hold their baby once he or she is born, and to have photographs. As a note, this decision to hold their baby is highly encouraged for as long as they want to, for it will be some of the few precious moments of their baby. Yet some parents aren't certain that they want to do this. Sometimes they need time to wrap their head around the idea. Parents are suddenly faced with funeral arrangements, the decisions to bury or cremate their baby, and the reality of the baby's room and belongings waiting for them once they are back home. As a grandparent or family member, your instinct may be to protect them and make these difficult decisions for them, but you can't deprive them of the reality of death. You can offer to help and make suggestions, but do not assume that they want you to take over. They need to make their own decisions. Making these decisions gives them a sense of control in a situation in which events and their emotions are out of control. It's important to allow them the time and space to pack up their baby's room and belongings. Going in and doing this work for them, unless they invite you to help them, can be devastating. It may take them a while to do it, but give them that breath and that space. If the room is cleared out by the time they get home from the hospital, even though well-meaning, it can wipe away the memories or the reality of their baby. Offer to drive parents and grandparents to the hospital, back home, and/or the funeral. They may not realize that their awareness of their surroundings and their decision-making skills are clouded while driving due to the shock of learning that their baby has died. So offering to support them can be extremely helpful. Include the baby's siblings in an age-appropriate way. The natural instinct is to want to protect children from death, but the loss of a baby affects the entire family, including the baby's brothers and sisters. They may not know what death is or be able to understand it, but even the youngest child feels the tension and pain surrounding it. Children will grow confused if they sense something is wrong and are witnessing adults sad and crying, and then are told nothing is wrong. This can cause them to doubt their own feelings and intuition. It's important to be open and honest in your explanations as you share grief with children and acknowledge their loss in an age-appropriate way. Children do grieve. Their response may vary according to their age and their feelings about a new brother or sister. A child may experience guilt if they had ambivalent feelings about having a new baby brother or sister. They will need the added support from grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, and family members as their parents grieve. Don't assume children are not grieving just because they are laughing and playing with friends. Children express their feelings through artwork and play. They may want to make things for the baby or share their toys with them. Including children as a family as they say hello and goodbye to the baby in the hospital is valuable. Little ones typically do remarkably well with this. Include children in the funeral and memorial services, but do not force them to attend or participate in the viewing or service. It's a good idea to have a support person for each child at these times, and a grandparent, relative, or family friend can fill that role beautifully. Please, when explaining death to a child, avoid telling them such things as, "He's gone on a trip." They may question, "When will he be back?" and become angry when he never returns. God took baby brother because he was so special. They may carry the fear that if I too am special, will God take me from my parents forever? Or she's gone to sleep. Children may become frightened that they will also go to sleep and never wake up, causing sleeping problems for the child. While well-meaning, these euphemisms can really confuse and frighten a child. It seems like a gentler explanation that is commonly used, but sleep and death are not the same thing. Honest, simple, and clear, age-appropriate explanations are best. If the parents decide to have a funeral or memorial service or ritual for their baby, please attend it if you can. This caring act shows your love, support, and that you honor their precious baby. Parents do remember who was there with them. If you are unable to attend, you can send a card or a letter that they can keep with the mementos of their baby. Be available to help with daily chores and needs, caring for children, preparing meals, running errands, doing laundry, or cleaning the house can be the biggest help to grieving parents. In the weeks following the loss, parents often find themselves disorganized and unable to do daily chores. They may not be sure what you can do to help if you ask them, or suggest they call you if they need anything. Being specific is best. May I help you with laundry, childcare, etc.? Grieving parents can find themselves overwhelmed if too many people bring meals the first weeks. Grieving people often have a loss in appetite, so spacing meals is best. There may be some days that parents are just not up for interacting, so checking in first is a great way to honor that. They might just appreciate the meal being dropped off without a visit. Other days they may really need the help and a listening ear, especially on holidays, anniversaries, and birthdays. Remembering the anniversary of a baby's birth and/or passing is one of the most significant and meaningful things you can do for your loved one. Honor parents on Mother's Day and Father's Day. They may want the day to pass quickly, however they do appreciate being honored. Bereaved Mother's Day and bereaved Father's Day are held the Sunday before Mother's Day and Father's Day. This is a wonderful way to remember all grieving parents. It is equally valuable to understand that parents may not be up for holiday celebrations, baby showers, birthday parties, etc. Invite them, of course, but give them the dignity and space to decline or leave the event early. Take time to honor your own grief. As a grandparent, aunt, uncle, relative, or friend, you may feel that you must be strong for your loved ones. You need the same time and space to grieve also. The loss of a baby or child can feel very lonely and isolating. Finding a support group, counselor, friend, online resources, or a clergy member or other spiritual leader to work through your grief is invaluable and enables you to be better support for your loved ones. It's important to note that if you are overwhelmed with grief, it's vital to find support outside of the grieving family to work through those feelings. If you feel like you are just going to cry and be overwhelmed and not know what to say or how to say it, then you may inadvertently be causing the grieving parent to have to support you. And that's a burden that's too much for them early in their grief. So again, find someone else to support you and help you work through the feelings. It's okay to cry, but make sure you're crying with them and not having them comfort you. I've had many grieving parents say that sometimes it was hard if someone was so emotional. You always want to look for support in grief outward from the grieving family. You can support them, but in your own grief, you look for support outward away from them. But it's okay to cry with them. You can sit in silence together, hold their hand, and just let them know how much you love them and that you're there for them. Again, I know that this is such a heavy and hard subject, but thank you for listening. Being able to provide support in these ways is absolutely invaluable. And even knowing things that can be helpful to say and the things that are unhelpful can save a grieving family hurt, frustration, and anger. So thank you for being here with me, because chances are you will encounter someone that is grieving the loss of a child.
For more great conversations like these, or to find out more information and access Michelle's library of amazing guests, go to birtheaseservices.com/podcast. For more information on the Birth Ease method, Michelle's classes, meditations, and other services, go to birtheaseservices.com.